Hello everyone, good afternoon. Am I audible? आवाज आ रही है?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we'll start our class. I hope the presentation is visible. So in the second class, we'll continue our discussion, previous discussion. We discussed about the infrastructure domains where the machining, advanced machining or advanced welding processes automation is required. So it comprises of railways, aerospace, marines, automobiles, highways, health technologies, computers, uh, irrigation, radio transmission, imaging, household application. Okay, so various broad range of areas where we will require these technologies. Okay. So our discussion we started for the joining processes. So joining processes, which comprises of welding and other processes. We discussed their brief about their definitions and the generic classification about the joining processes, which includes the atomic bonding and mechanical bonding. In mechanical bonding, there are permanent bonding or temporary bonding. The temporary bonding, which we can unscrew or disassemble the elements and then put them back. In permanent bonding, we have to break the bonds. Okay, so in mechanical bonding and permanent side, we have rivets, shrink fits, force fits, and in the atomic bonding side, which is generally permanent type of bonding. We have solid state bonding, liquid state bonding, which is also known as fusion welding, and solid oblique liquid state. Okay, so these are the processes which we also know as brazing, soldering, adhesive bonding. Here we are not melting or heating the base material or the material which we have to join. The third material in brazing and soldering, we have the third material which have to be melted and then which will create the bond. Okay, in liquid state bond joining process, we have electrical welding methods like electric arc, make, take, submerged arc process. Okay, in chemical welding, we have thermite welding, gas welding. In laser beam welding, we have the laser power, which will melt the base material and then join the material. Okay, so these are various classifications which we have seen. This is the broad general generic classification. We can classify them with different perspective also. So these are some of the images where we can see different type of bondings. Okay, now we discussed after it the choice of joining, how which type of joint or which type of process we will use for joining. The choice will depend upon the whether we want to have a temporary or permanent joint, where what is the service requirement, whether it is room temperature requirement or elevated temperature requirement, what would be the corrosion conditions there, how much reliability we want, what is the criticality of the process, loading, whether the loading will be of static type or dynamic type. If the more severe condition is there, then we'll use the mechanical permanent joint type bonding. What is the metallurgical compatibility of the parent metals? Okay, whether they are compatible or incompatible. How much we want to spend on the process. Okay, so whether we want to do it the process in a cheaper way or we can spend more money. All these aspects are required to analyze first, and then we will choose the right procedure or right way of joining. Then we discussed about the basic welding. that it is a localized heating process and which causes differential heating and cooling condition. Due to this localized heating and differential heating and cooling condition, what happens that the residual stresses are generated in the joint. Okay, so you can see this bead here. Hello. Okay, you can see here this bead here. So at the in the vicinity of the joint, you will find the tensile stresses, and as we move away from the joint toward the parent metal, you will find the compressive stresses. Due to it, the residual stress formation will take place. So we have to remove this residual stress formation post with the help of post welding treatments. We can do the heat treatment process or short pinning. This type of methods we can use to remove the things. Okay. Now we discuss something about the grain structure, whether the grain structure will happen as the epitaxial growth or nucleation and grain growth. These things we discuss. Along with it, we discussed also about some thermal cycle, weld thermal cycle. So at different locations, we will find different weld thermal cycles of the process. Okay, so these all factors contribute towards the residual stresses in the welding process. Okay. Now, due to it, the problem with welding is that due to all these factors which we discussed here, variation in weld thermal cycle, different type of growth pattern, different type of stresses in various cross section, we'll find that there are different problems. Okay. One of the problem is that when compared with different methods or different other manufacturing processes, the welding creates poor surface finish. Okay, so we are melting the material and we are depositing some third material over the joint. The joint is at very high temperature. It is not controlled precisely. So what will happen? We'll get the poor surface finish. So what we have to do? We have to remove the slag from the weld joint. Some of the time if the slag is there, we have to remove the slag from the joint, and then we have to file the material, or we have to machine the extra material to get the required surface finish. So one of the problem with welding is that the surface finish is not as comparable with the other different manufacturing techniques. Dimensional accuracy is also poor because due to rapid heating and cooling, what is happening that there is change, a little change in dimension, the thermal expansion is there, and then we cannot maintain the proper gap between the materials. The welding may be improper. Due to that, you will not get the, the dimensional accuracy which is present in other methods. Okay. Different ductile to brittle transformation temperature. So what is ductile to brittle transformation temperature? We discussed about ductile and brittle material in our previous semester. So both the ductile material and brittle material fail by different phenomena. Okay, so if it is brittle material, then brittle fracture, it will fail by brittle fracture or sudden fracture without any plastic deformation. But if it is ductile, then there is plastic deformation before failure. Okay, now what happens that if we cool any ductile material during sub-zero temperatures, so what will happen that the ductility of the material will decrease. Okay, so let's say this is the ductility. Okay, and this is the temperature. So this shows the percentage elongation or ductility, how ductile is the material, or plastic deformation it can go, and this is the temperature. If it is like this, and if you keep decreasing the temperature, these are sub-zero degree Celsius, the ductility of the material keeps on reducing. Or let's say it is not that much changing, but it reduces. But since it will reach a temperature which is known as transition temperature, where sudden fall in ductility will take place and the material will behave brittle. Okay, so here it is brittle reason, and this is ductile reason. And this line is known as transition temperature. Okay, so the transition temperature is sub-zero degrees. It happens below 10 or 15 degrees in various materials. So this temperature is very crucial, critical, because if the material is ductile and we have designed the material for the ductile failure, but suddenly the material at various sub-zero degree temperatures of the material starts behaving like brittle material, then it is going to fail by brittle failure modes. Okay, so it becomes very dangerous at that time. Okay, so we need to avoid the working temperatures which are at the transition temperature. So what happens that when we are doing welding, different ductile to brittle transformation temperature happens. So it may happen that at the welding zone, the transition temperature or transformation temperature shifts from this to this point. Okay, so from point A to point B, it may shift in this. Okay, so let's say if initially the parent material, let's say if we are welding mild steel and it has some 40 degrees or let's say 25 degrees, minus 25 degrees is the transition transformation temperature, then it may shift towards 20 degrees or minus 18 degrees. Okay, so this is the problem with the welding. So it is dangerous. So we should keep in mind about this thing also. Again, the problem is that it has reduced creep and fatigue resistance. We know what is creep, we know what is fatigue resistance. So the weld joint will have the reduced creep and fatigue resistance. It also have compromised corrosion resistance. And due to all these things, and due to having the residual stresses inside it, we need to remove the residual stresses. To remove the residual stresses, we have to do the post weld heat treatment also. Okay, so these are the some of the problems associated with welding, which we should keep in mind. Okay, so again, selection of welding process, we'll keep in mind the material, what type of material is there, how much thickness is there. If the material thickness is below, oh, say 20 mm or 10 mm, then we can go for the 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 arc welding, MIG welding, TIG welding. What is the melting point of the materials? What is the thermal expansion? Okay, so different mechanical properties, different metallurgical properties we have to keep in mind, and based on these things, based on the selection of the metal, will choose the welding process. Availability of the consumable, most of the time it will happen that we have limited source. uh, so based on those sources also we have to select the welding process. What is the criticality of the process, that also will help us in selecting the welding process. Service conditions, aqueous corrosion condition, high temperature condition, precision required, how much precision do we require. So some of the methods uh, which are easy or non-costly will be less precise. However, some of the process may be precise, like the TIG welding, but they are a little bit costly. Okay, so so economy, all these things we have to keep in mind while selecting the welding process. So what are the advantages of welding process? Welding process will give us a permanent type of joint. Okay, so that is one of the thing. Another thing is that the joint strength is as good as the base material. Will get very good strength of the joint. Most of the welding processes will, if done properly, if done correctly, they will provide very good joining strength, as good as the strength of the base material. And most of the conventional joining process or welding processes are economical method of joining. Okay, and they are fast also. Very fast methods are there. You can use those methods and join the material. Okay. Disadvantages of welding processes we have. There are variety of welding processes, different type of welding processes, different equipments are there. So we need to have expertise in different type of welding processes for various purpose. Okay, so the process changes with the application, with the type of material which we want to join. Okay, with that the machine changes, the requirement changes. So we need expertise in various set of welding processes. That is one of the problem. Okay, so if you are doing machining, then you know the idea that if you can do turning, you can do facing, you can do milling, you can do drilling, then there is no that much expertise in everything. But here in welding, there are different type of welding processes, and the expertise varies in these processes. High labor cost, the methods, since expertise are required, okay, to train the people, and to for the operation also we need the labor, which is very high, very costly. During welding, some of the welding processes, hazardous fumes and vapors will come out, which is harmful to the operator, which is harmful to the environment. So that is one of the disadvantages, like in metal arc welding. Poor reliability. Okay, if the welding is done poorly, there may be defects. Okay, there may be different type of defects, or there may be holes, there may be cracks in the welding, which need to be rectified through non-destructive method or NDT methods for weld inspection. If these are there, then they can create the problem in the welding. They can create the stress concentration, so which can cause the failure of the welding. Okay, so the methods are uh, economical but poorly reliable. Okay, so these are some of the disadvantages. This is the basic metal arc welding, which we know. Stick welding is also known as electrode arc welding. It is also known as electrode arc welding. This figure is shown here to show the components. This we have already gone through in our undergraduate programs. So what is happening here is that a current is flowing. Okay, current is flowing through the system. The current is flowing through the system. So the source of current is this. This is power source. This is the power source or welding machine. We used to say the welding machine. There are some settings. The voltage input, the current input. Here there are various type of settings are there. So we'll do the settings, and then there are some terminals. Okay, so one terminal will make negative, and another terminal will make positive or ground. Okay, or that positive terminal or ground terminal we can attach to the workpiece here, and the negative terminal we can attach to the electrode holder. So this is electrode holder, and with this electrode holder there is this electrode is there. Okay, so one is this, second is this electrode. So we have this electrode. If it is the base material is made of stainless steel, again we have to make the electrode of the stainless steel. Okay, so electrode may be coated or uncoated. Okay, so there may be coated electrodes or uncoated electrodes. Coated with flux. Okay, so the flux coated electrode can be there. So what is the use of flux? Power source is one thing. Electrode is another thing. Third thing is flux. So can anyone tell me what is the use of flux? So when we are welding, there is this molten metal pool. Okay, so molten material is there, and let's say this is the arc coming from the electrode. This is the electrode. This is the parent metal one, and this is the parent metal two. Okay, so we are coming like this. Okay, so this joining happening, and this is the molten part. Okay, so these molten parts will need to be isolated from the atmosphere, because in atmosphere we have nitrogen, we have oxygen. Okay, so these gases can penetrate inside the metal. They can create the inclusions, they can create the holes, they can contaminate the molten part. Okay, so till this part is not solidified, we need some protective layer of this molten part to be separated from the atmospheric conditions. Okay, so this coating or flux is required. This flux will create a layer, a protective layer over this molten part. Since the flux is heavier and the flux is lighter and the molten part is heavier, the molten material will settle down and the flux will remain at the top, and the molten material will solidify. The flux will also solidify, and during solidification also the flux will protect the molten material or weld joint from the atmospheric contamination. Once this solidification has happened, we can chip off the flux, which is also known as the slag. Okay, the slag will be there. Will remove of the slag and we can get the joint. Okay, so that is one part. The flux is there. Flux can be of different type. Okay, you can have the solid carbonate or silicate type of coatings in the flux, or you can use gases as the flux. Okay, so here this is different technology where we're using shielding gases as flux. Okay, so you can use argon, you can use CO2, you can use a mixture of argon and CO2, you can use helium gas. Okay, so you can use different type of gases as the shielding flux, or this carbonate and silicate coatings also you can use as flux. Okay, then we have the workpiece. Different type of workpiece are there, which we can use for welding. Okay, so these three or four main different type of things are required here. If you see, this is a MIG welding setup. Metal inert gets welding is there. So here it may have the power source. Okay, so it is having this power source. And the second thing is electrode. Here we have electrode which was consumable electrode, and since the as the electrode melts, we have to reduce the holding gap. This is the electrode holder, and we have to keep the electrode holder, keep pressing the electrode holder near the welding area as the process proceed, because the electrode is getting consumed. Okay, so this is the process. In this process we have a constant wire feed as electrode, constant feeding of wire. Okay, so here we had an electrode like this, but what if we can convert this electrode into wire. So they have this wire spool. Okay, so this wire spool is there, and this wire spool is fed constantly through this torch. Okay, so this torch is there. So this torch will constantly feed the wire electrode towards the workpiece. Okay, so and the flux here, flux either you can use the coated wire electrode, or you can use the gas supply. Okay, so if it is gas supply, then we'll call it the MIG welding. If it is the coated wire, then we'll call the flux core gas welding. Okay, so inert gas welding. So these you can use different type of power source. You can use DC power source. You can use AC power source. You can use make the electrode negative. You can make the electrode positive. The electrode positive is reverse polarity. It is known as reverse polarity. Okay, or you can use the AC power source, in which during half of the cycle the electrode is negative, and half of the cycle electrode is positive. Okay, so we have different combination of power source, different type of electrodes we can use, different type of flux we can use, and based on the combination of these we have the various welding processes. Okay, so in fusion welding we are comparing two processes, let's say fusion welding and solid state welding. In fusion welding, the weld joints are created by coalescence of molten base metals mixed with or without molten filler metal. Okay, so one more thing here is filler metal. Okay, so sometimes we have to use filler metals if the when the here electrode is working as filler metal. In this process, electrode itself is working as the filler metal. Here also the wire electrode is there, and this electrode is itself working as filler metal. But there may be some process where like in TIG. Okay, tungsten inert gas welding, we have non-consumable type electrode. We have tungsten electrode, which is non-consumable type, and just creating the arc. Then for the filling purpose, or for the melting purpose here and filling purpose, what we'll do, we'll use a third metal, which is the filler metal, and it will be melted and then deposited during the welding process. Okay, so we can use filler metal, or the electrode itself will act as the filler metal. So welds are created by the coalescence or mixing of molten base metal with or without molten filler metal. Okay, so here what we are doing, we are heating the base metal up to its melting point. Okay, so here melting and then solidification is happening. Okay, so here the fourth thing you can write as filler metal. So base metal heated up, and it is heated up to melting point. While in solid state welding, the welds are created by coalescence of softened base metals in the solid state. Okay, so the base metal is not heated up to the melting point. It is just heated below the melting temperature to soft it. Okay, and the welds are created at temperatures below the melting point. Okay, so solid state welding, like friction stir welding, we will rub the material in such a way that it will be heated, but it will get softened, and the one of the material will gets a microscopic coalescence with the other metal. Okay, so that is the solid state welding. So one of the example of fusion welding is arc welding. Okay, so we can have the polarity of electrode at DC plus or DC minus, or we can use the AC power source. So in arc welding, what is happening, that the electricity is flowing from the power source. So the electricity is flowing from the power source through the electrode. So we want to complete the circuit. So first electricity flows from power source to the electrode holder through the electrode, through the electric arc, through the workpiece, and back to towards the power source. Okay, so this is the circuit. Okay, so first it will come out of the power source, then it will travel through the electrode, then it will travel through the arc, then it will move inside the base material and back to the power source. Due to this, we'll get a constant continuous flow of current, and we'll get the welding process. Okay, so if you can see, this is the these are two base metals. The, let's say, this is the base material 1, this is base material 2, and we are doing the welding here. This is the arc which is heating. This is the fusion zone which is above, or slightly above, or at, or up to melting point. We say up to melting point. Okay, let's say Tm is the melting point of the base metals 1 and 2. So it is up to the melting point. Then we have some region which is below melting point, but still higher at the base temperature of the material or the atmospheric temperature. So this area is again affected by the heat. This area is again affected by the heat, and this is known as heat affected zone. This is known as heat affected zone. And then rest of the base metal is there. It will be slightly hot, but not as its microstructure will not change, because a heat affected zone may be heated up to zero point 0.3 of Tm, where recrystallization takes place. Okay, so its property, the property of the heat affected zone is different from the properties, or the mechanical or microstructural properties of base material. Okay, so how much heat is required to melt a unit volume of the weld zone? So let's say Q is the joules of the heat required for a unit volume. So in order to get the temperature rise from ambient temperature, let's say the atmospheric temperature is the ambient temperature, or the initial temperature of the material is Ta. So to raise the temperature of a unit volume of the weld zone, we will require rho, which is the density of the material, C, specific heat of the materials, and Tm minus Ta is the temperature, the change in temperature up to the melting point. Okay, so this will create the heat requirement to melt the temperature. Now it is to melting point, but still at the solid phase. Now the phase change is required. To change the phase from solid to liquid, some latent heat is required. So L, we require the latent heat of fusion. Okay, so Tm is the property of the material, C is the property of the material, rho is the property of the material, L is the property of the material. Okay, so once we know all this value, we can put for a particular material in this equation, and we can get that the minimum amount of heat requires to raise but unit volume of the material. Okay, then there will be small superheat, because we cannot control the temperature up to the melting point temperature. There the temperature will be slightly above the melting point temperature, and that is known as the superheating. Okay, so there will be a small superheating that also is required. That's why we are telling that this is the minimum amount of heat, minimum amount of heat energy required to raise the temperature or melt the material. Okay, so this is known as enthalpy of melting. So we have some of the basic methods which we have studied during our undergraduate programs. One is shielded metal arc welding or stick welding. There are various names, or electrode arc welding. There are various names. So just now we discussed that this is the electrode. This electrode is coated with the flux or slag. Okay, so flux coating is there, and then electrode is attached with the power supply. Okay, so one end of the power supply is attached to the one end of the electrode or electrode holder, and another end of the power supply or earth is attached to the workpiece or workpiece table. And then once we start, we give the input, we apply the voltage and current, then this arc will form. Okay, so arc will form, which will create the melting of the material. Okay, so this is the molten part, and it is protected from the atmosphere, which is comprised of nitrogen and oxygen, through the slag layer from the flux. Okay, so uh, it has a consumable electrode coated with a shielding flux. The flux provides protective gas around the weld pool. Uh, we use the flux coated rod, and the slag keeps oxygen off the weld bead during cooling. Okay. The advantages of this type of method is that it is very simple method. The equipment is very portable and inexpensive. You can use it in most of the applications, like the mild steel welding or the low carbon steel welding, stainless steel welding. We can use it. Okay, so the disadvantages of this process is that this is a manual process. Okay, so what you have to do, you have to manually maintain this gap. So there is this gap, arc gap is there. Okay, and you have to manually maintain this gap. Let's say this is the length of the arc. You have to manually maintain this gap. So process is discontinuous due to limited length of the electrode. Once the electrode is consumed, this electrode is consumed, and you have to weld for a longer length. Then we have to stop, we have to change the electrode, then we have to again start the process. So one of the drawback is that it is a manual process. We have to manually keep or maintain the length of the arc. Another problem is that the process is discontinuous, and once the electrode is consumed, due to its limited length, we have to stop and change the electrode again. Uh, the slag layer is there to protect the atmospheric contamination. So what can happen, that slag impurities can also go inside the weld, solidified weld. So the weld may contain the slag inclusions. Okay, and since this arc welding is there, so there may be gaseous fumes. Harmful hazardous fumes may be there, which can go into the body of the operator, which can go into the atmosphere. Okay, so it is not sustainable process. So fumes may make difficult to control the process. Okay, so these are some of the advantages and disadvantages of the shielded metal arc welding. The one problem was that it was a manual process. So how, what we can do this? We can make it automatic or semi-automatic. If or it was a discontinuous process, we can make it continuous. So if we convert it from manual to automatic and from discontinuous to continuous, then we'll get another method, which is the metal arc welding or metal inert gas welding. Okay, so here what we have done, instead of a electrode of a limited length, the people have used the consumable wire electrode. Okay, so long wires we can draw. Okay, we can wind the wires over the spools. Okay, so there is no need to change the electrode in between the process. So consumable electrode, wire electrode type process is there. uh, Flux was there, which can go inside. Okay, here the flux was there, it was going inside. Okay, so instead of having this flux, which will convert into slag, we can use the shielding gases. Okay, so shielding gases, there are different type of shielding gases. Argon is there, CO2 is there, a mixture of argon, oxygen, or argon, CO2, or helium we can use, which will not create the slag. Okay, and this process will be a continuous process. Well, you can see here, this is the wire electrode. Okay, so it is the wire electrode. You can use the solid wire with the gas shielding, or a cored electrode, or the flux coated electrode without the gases. You can apply the pulse either minus or plus to the wire. Generally, this is the polarity. If you reverse the polarity, if you make the wire positive and workpiece negative, then that is known as the reverse polarity. Okay, and this is the copper nozzle is there. Okay, which is used to focus the gases over the welding pool. Okay, so gases are going from here over the welding pool in this focused manner, and they will create a shielding layer. Okay, so the gases will provide a shielding layer to the arc, and arc is generated, and as the metal melts and deposits over the surface as the weld pool, the wire will continuously fade, so it will make the process continuous. Okay, so that is the thing. Third type of process is gas tungsten arc welding, okay, or TIG welding, tungsten inert gas welding. Now, what has happened that the process was continuous, everything was good, but the control over the process, or the control over the quality of the weld, if required to improve, then what is there, that we should not give the system as the continuous feed system, or molten wire metal. Okay, so what we can do, just we can create an arc. Okay, we can use an electrode, a pointed electrode in the torch with gas coming out. Okay, and the use of this electrode is to just create an arc. Okay, so due to this, the arc will be created. Okay, now this arc will melt the base metal, and we can additionally use a filler metal, or a filler metal, instead of melting it as arc, melting is at wire, we'll use a separate filler rod. Okay, so now we don't have a consumable type electrode. So in this method, we have a non-consumable type electrode. We If we don't want to use filler metal, then okay, we can just melt and do the process. So it can be used with or without filler metal. Again, we can use the shielded gases like argon, helium, nitrogen. And when if we want to use the welding of the thin sections like aluminum, magnesium, titanium, then this process is best. Okay, so what are the advantages of this type of process? Okay, so the weld composition is close to that of the parent metal. Okay, so weld composition is close to that of the parent metal. Relatively high quality weld structure. When we will require the quality of the weld structure to be higher, then we can use this type of MIG welding, TIG welding. no slag formation because there is no coating of the or the flux there, so there is no slag formation. Thermal distortions of the workpiece are minimum due to concentration of heat in small zone. So here the electrode is in the form of an tip or a point. Okay, so what will happen that the arc will be highly concentrated on a narrow zone. Okay, so due to it will get a very small or a zone of the arc, so the heat affected zone will be less, and due to this the thermal distortions in the workpiece will also be minimum. Okay, but the problem with this process is that it has a low welding rate. Welding the speed is very slow, relatively expensive because we need different setup, different machine for it. Gas cylinders are also required. Different filler rods are also required. The electrode is also required. Okay, so it makes the setup expensive, and also since it is not automatic or semi-automatic type of the process, the skill requirement or the operator skill requirement are a little bit higher side. Okay, so these are some of the disadvantages of the method. Okay, so this was a comparison. These three slides help us in understanding the comparison between three electric processes. We are using electric source, and how what are differences between these three processes, and what are the advantages and disadvantages. Now we'll take the things one by one, like the power source. Okay, so these are the components. Let's first start about the power source. Okay, so source characteristics. Power source characteristics means the relation between the voltage, the arc voltage, and arc current during the welding process. Okay, so there are different things. Power characteristics. That is one thing, in arc characteristic that is another thing. So we'll discuss about the power source characteristics. Means the relation between the current and voltage of the power source. How the what is the relation between the current and voltage of the power source. Okay, so these characteristics may be the static characteristics, where the load conditions are not varying that much. Okay, so we have a constant load conditions, or dynamic or pulse characteristics, where we have the variable load conditions. Okay, so in static characteristics, we can have the constant current type characteristics. Okay, so we can have the constant current type characteristics, or current is constant. This is also known as drooping or falling characteristics. Okay, and we can have another one as the constant potential or constant voltage characteristics, also known as the plate characteristics. And we can also have the combined characteristics. Okay, so a mixture of constant current and constant voltage characteristics. Okay, so before starting to understand the static characteristic of the power source, we have to understand the arc characteristic. Okay, so arc characteristic means uh, when we have a workpiece or base metal, and we have this electrode. Okay, so let's say this is the arc. Okay, so the power will be the whatever current is there and whatever voltage is there. So the multiplication of voltage and current will give the overall power here. Okay, so here this is what this voltage here during this arc will known as arc voltage or open circuit voltage or the voltage working voltage. This is the working voltage here, and the current flowing through it, the working current. Fine. Now this the relation between this voltage and current is given by the equation V equals to IR, where R is the resistance due to this arc. Okay, so whatever the resistance value is there, if you multiply with the current, that will be the voltage drop. Okay, so due to this resistance, the current is allowed to pass through this arc. Okay, this is the arc. If we assume the area of this arc is constant, we can write that R is rho L by A. Okay, rho is the electrical resistivity, uh, and L is the length of the arc, and A is the area of the arc. Okay, so let's say if the current is constant, the rho is constant, the A is constant, then you can see that the voltage is proportional to length of the arc. Okay, so this is the length of the arc. This is the length of the arc. So if you make a plot, you make a plot between the length, the arc, and the voltage, whatever voltage here. If you increase the length, what will happen? From this equation you will find that there is an increase in voltage. Okay, so this is how you will get the length. Okay, for one value of current, say I1. Okay, for another value of current, if I1 is greater than I2 is greater than I1, you can get this type of characteristics. Okay, so this is I2. Okay, so this is known as the arc characteristic. Okay, so for particular length, okay, for particular current, or for a particular value of current, you will find that with an increase in arc, the voltage increases. Okay, so you can also see that once if we increase the length, it may happen that the the resistance will increase such that arc will distinguish. The open voltage will increase and arc can get distinguished. Okay, so here you can see there can be different type of arcs. Normal arc length, which is the required arc length. This can be the normal arc length or required arc length. If you increase the arc length, then there can be no long arc length, and there if you reduce the arc length, then it can be the short arc length. Okay, so power source characteristics is the study of voltage, relation between voltage and current. Okay, and the arc characteristic is the relationship between voltage and length of the arc. So that is the thing which we have to understand. So again we'll come here, we'll see what do we mean by constant current characteristics and constant voltage characteristics. Okay, so this is how we'll get the constant current characteristic. Okay, so we'll get the vertical axis as the voltage and horizontal axis as the current. Okay, and if you find that the relation between them or the power source is such that there is this sharp curve is there. Okay, so if this type of sharp curve is there, then we'll call it as the constant current characteristic. Okay, so it is also known as the dropping characteristics or falling characteristics. Why it is known as this dropping characteristic or falling characteristics? Because if you take several points here, 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 and if you draw tangent at different points, okay, let's say here one tangent, here one tangent, here one tangent. So what will you find, that there is this sudden drop in the slope. Okay, the slope is increasing in the negative direction. Okay, so it seems like the thing is falling from top to bottom. Okay, so that's why, due to this nature, it is known as the falling characteristic or dropping characteristics. Okay, so in the next class we'll discuss more about the current characteristics. So if you have any question in today's class, you can ask. I hope you understood it. Any problem is today's class? Okay, so we'll stop here and then we'll meet in the next class. Thank you for joining.